I have yet another one of these horrifying stories about the brutal Putin regime that we're still sort of trying to figure out. I told you a while back that Mikhail Lesin was found dead in his Washington, D.C. hotel room back in November of 2015, okay? Lesin was Vladimir Putin's former media czar, and the date of his death is November 5, 2015. And that's relevant because on November 6, 2015, he was scheduled to meet with the U.S. Justice Department reportedly to talk about the inner workings of Russian propaganda channel RT, which Lesin himself helped create. But of course, he never made it to the interview because he was found dead. He was found dead with blunt force injuries to the head, neck, and torso. And after a year of so-called investigation, a federal prosecutor announced that Lesin died alone in his room due to drunkenly falling multiple times after drinking for days. The death was ruled an accident and the case was closed as far as prosecutors were concerned. However, we now have two FBI agents speaking out saying that is not what happened. They say that Lesin was actually murdered, bludgeoned to death, in fact. We have a quote from one of these FBI agents with knowledge of the incident. Lesin was beaten to death. I would implore you to say as much. There seems to be an effort here to cover up that fact for reasons I can't get into. What I can tell you is that there isn't a single person inside the Bureau who believes this guy got drunk, fell down, and died. Everyone thinks he was whacked and that Putin or the Kremlin were behind it. One of these officials went as far as to say a baseball bat was the particular tool that was used in the bludgeoning of Mikhail Lesin. At the time, Lesin was working for state-owned Gazprom Media, or about a year before this incident. He was working for Gazprom Media. He abruptly resigned in 2014. He reportedly had a falling out with Vladimir Putin's close confidants and went into hiding abroad. And the hypothesis is that he sort of became a liability for Vladimir Putin when a letter was written by U.S. Senator Roger Wickett to the Justice Department asking for them to investigate what was going on with Lesin. And this is yet another one of these suspicious Russian deaths. BuzzFeed did a 2-year investigation into 14 Russian deaths that were suspicious on British soil, most of which were ignored by the UK government. And as usual, Pat, with lots of these, including Lesin's death, we get reports that don't really make sense about the cause of death. We go to the medical examiner that was involved. They say, you know, we're barred by law from giving you the autopsy details. And he fell multiple times from being too drunk is weird. Like, is there an amount of alcohol that would cause you... So you could have a lot of alcohol and fall once and pass out, and maybe you would have like one injury from that. But to believe that you're drinking so much but still staying conscious and falling multiple times in your own hotel room until you die, it's weird.
It's because they have to work backwards with the explanation. So if he was actually bludgeoned to death with a baseball bat, you'd imagine that he was attacked from multiple angles, probably hit multiple times. So you can't just blame that on one fall. It has to be multiple falls. And it's the same thing as someone being stabbed in the back 11 times before falling out of a building. I mean, it's a ridiculous explanation.
So then the question becomes, presumably, someone or some combination of people want to cover this up. If indeed this was a Kremlin-sanctioned, ordered, Kremlin-involved hit, then there are people in the U.S. complicit in the cover-up. Why would they do that? And then it becomes speculation. Are there people in the Department of Justice allied with Vladimir Putin and they don't want to upset Putin? Are there people in the Department of Justice that are sort of just aware of how the situation would become hysterical if you start seeing headlines saying, hey, here's what really happened, and maybe they want to avoid escalation with Russia, a sort of realpolitik perspective? I don't know. But there is a very long list, a growing list of these suspicious deaths.